In between fact and faith is a belief. A belief is a conviction that is open to revision based on new evidence. Now, the interesting thing is that most of our decisions in life, most of the day-to-day things, we decide not based on fact or faith. We decide based on beliefs. Should I marry this person? Should I start this job? Should I make this investment? Should I take this class? Should I move to this city? I mean,
Yeah.
most of these questions, we don't have either fact or faith. We make these decisions based on belief, things that are convictions that are open to revision based on new evidence. And so if most of our decisions are based on these beliefs, we damn well better get them right. And what I think most of us do is that we allow what's called a limiting belief to oftentimes guide us, because our default, this is brand new since my second book, to my third book, that the research has now revealed that learned helplessness, this concept of learned helplessness, that over time you can be taught that nothing you do matters. And so this had all kinds of sociological consequences that people say, oh, okay, we understand why groups tend to stay low on the socioeconomic strata because of learned helplessness. They've been taught not to try. Turns out that the study authors, Seligman and Meyer, just a couple of years ago, completely reversed the conclusion of these studies. And what they found was that we do not learn helplessness. We do not learn helplessness. Helplessness is our default. Our default state is helplessness. Hope must be learned. So we don't learn helplessness, we learn hope. And if you don't constantly reinforce what they call the hope circuit, that you constantly need to tell yourself, okay, I choose to believe that there is a better way. I choose to believe in optimism. I choose to believe in my own agency. I choose my beliefs, my liberating beliefs rather than my limiting beliefs. If you don't actively do that, you will constantly slip into all these limiting beliefs. It's too late. I don't have time. I'm too this, that, or the other. We constantly will slip into these things if we don't actively fight against them.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, with parents out there, I'm thinking about my kids. Like, wow, that's a big realization. If I don't continue to positively help them reinforce hope, the helplessness is a default mode. Wow.
Helplessness is the default. That's exactly right. And this is brand new. Most people, I didn't know this until I dug into the research. But yeah, this is something that we have to actively teach ourselves and of course our children. And I think it has some real profound consequences for society that we don't talk about. And I can feel it. We can, I think the world is a lot more pessimistic place than it was when I was growing up, at least in the United States. So that's to me what it feels like. And pessimism and doomerism is particularly dangerous because doomerism means that you have a perspective that things are inevitably going to get worse. It's dangerous for two reasons. Not only is it wrong, we can't always do something about it. We can always make things better. So it's wrong for that reason. It's double dangerous because if you believe in it, it becomes true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Because if you don't think things are going to get better, you don't build your home on quicksand. You don't have children. You don't start businesses. You don't invest in your future because what's the point? Everything's going to tumble anyway. So it's double dangerous. It's wrong and inevitable if you believe in it.
So I feel like there has to be some kind of an audit that we should do about our beliefs, right? What do we believe in? Are they helping or hurting us? Take us through that. What should people do?
So I think the best place to start is to look at the things in your life that don't seem to improve for whatever reason. That if it's that New Year's resolution that you've had for year after year, whether it's, I've been wanting to write that book that doesn't get done. I've been wanting to start that business. I've been wanting to start the podcast, that relationship that continues to annoy me and somehow I can't get over fixing it. That's where we look. We look for those areas of our life where we feel stuck, right? Where we keep going back to a sense of hopelessness. So that's where we start. We look for those areas of our life. And if we scratch below the surface, we will always find that underneath is some kind of limiting belief. And then what we do, there's all kinds of techniques. Then there are techniques to actually unpack those limiting beliefs and do something about them. But I think the most important first step is to realize that limiting beliefs are like your face. We carry our face around with us all day long, but you can't look at your face, right? Not the way you can look at your hand or your foot. You can't see your face unless, of course, you go to a mirror. And so what this book does, what I think the research will show us, is that when we take out a mirror and look at our face, we can for the first time see our limiting beliefs. You can't see your own limiting beliefs. And what's interesting, why they're hidden to you, is that you can likely see everyone else's limiting beliefs. Think about your closest family members, your best friends. I bet you can name at least one limiting belief that every single person you know has, but you can't see your own limiting beliefs, right? Because to you, your limiting beliefs feel like facts. Like that's just the way it is. It's just your belief. Exactly. So it's only when you unpack them that you even know you have these hidden limiting beliefs. The trick is to choose your beliefs. That's really the big takeaway, the aha that I had, that beliefs are tools, not truths. That's the summary in one sentence. Beliefs are tools, not truths. There's all kinds of things you can believe in that once you free yourself from the restriction of things having to be facts and rather say, hey, this is just a belief. I don't have to think of this as something that's true, but it's useful, so I'm going to do it. So, and then this goes on and on and on, right? The research is super interesting. For example, placebos. Placebos are freaking fascinating. There's so much interesting research that we've just uncovered very recently about how effective placebos are. Did you know that placebos have been shown to help people improve muscle mass? There's a beautiful study where they gave these young men placebos, and they told them it was steroids, and they wanted to see what would happen when they went to the gym. And this isn't, there's a lot of like cockamamie studies out there. I've looked through so much research that's terribly done. This one happens to be very, very well done and has been replicated, that over and over again, people who are given placebos and are told it's steroids gain more muscle mass. What the hell? Like compared to a control group that just goes and works out at the gym per normal, those who go to the gym with a placebo pill that are told are steroids gain more muscle mass. Isn't that fantastic? Why is that? Is it because there's some kind of magic to placebos, that placebos make muscle? No, placebos don't do that. Placebos actually don't cure anything. They don't cure sickness. There's a difference between sickness and illness. So placebos are really good with illness. They don't work on sickness. Sickness is physical damage in the body. They don't do that. They don't cure cancer. They don't heal broken bones. What placebos are really good at is changing the symptoms of illness. Illness happens in the brain, sickness happens in the body. They're really good at that. And so what these placebos did that helped these men tack on more muscle mass was that when these men believed that they were on a steroid, they behaved differently in the gym. They cranked out one more rep. They had a little bit more weight. Placebos are amazing. And a lot of things that I used to make fun of and I didn't believe in as woo-woo, I now understand. So for example, my wife's family is Chinese, and I never understood traditional Chinese medicine. I thought it was, there's no studies, there's no good science about this. Like, there's no double-blind control studies. And now I've really softened up on that. Because if it's not dangerous, right? If you're not going to really harm yourself with some kind of poison or some, and if it's not crazy expensive, even if it is only the placebo effect is crazy powerful.
Right.
So
it works.
There's nothing wrong with it.
There's results. There's results.
It gets results. At the end of the day, who cares?
Unless, of course, the Chinese medicine is something that irks you and grosses you out, which, as a Chinese person, there are things that they're like, oh, go eat this. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do.
Interesting you should say that. There's a reason behind that. So it turns out the more bitter, the more gross, the more suffering you have to endure, the more effective of a placebo it is. Also expensive. It turns out the more you pay for it, the better the placebo effect. That we know that the placebos will have different colors. So if you have anxiety, a pill that is blue will be more effective. But if you need more energy, a placebo that is red will be more effective. So there's all these cues based on the power of the mind, based on the power of anticipation, that actually make placebos more effective based on your prior beliefs. So if you think, this tastes terrible, it must work, it will.
Well, isn't it just how, like Red Bull, right? As a brand, Red Bull. That's how they did it in the first place. It tastes like piss. I think one of the early sort of taste tests was like, I would rather drink piss than drink this. Yeah. But because of that, people believe in its power. And who knows? There has to be some placebo effect baked into that product as well.
Yeah. Let's go even more ridiculous than Red Bull. There's this drink, Liquid Death. You know this drink, Liquid Death?
Of course.
It's water.
It's water. Water in a can, dude.
Water in a can. That's all it is. Water. It doesn't claim to do anything. It's just water. And they are killing it. And I talk about it in the book. Yeah, why they're doing so well. And who knows if they're going to do well forever, right? A company's not a product,
Right.
but it's a wonderful example of this anticipation loop that when you believe something about a product, you feel it differently. And then because you anticipate it that it will react differently, you feel it differently, and then you confirm it to others. And this cycle happens again and again with all kinds of products. In fact, the role of advertising, most people completely misunderstand the role of advertising.
Mhm.
Advertising is not about telling people about your product so they buy it. That's one small function, right? And okay, maybe the local dry cleaner or local restaurant, yeah, sure. Like, here's my new business, come check it out. But when you think about big brands, why does Coca-Cola need to tell everybody that Coca-Cola exists? We all know it exists. Why do they keep advertising? Again, you must see hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of the Coke logo again and again and again. What is it? Well, we know that through this mere exposure effect, what is happening is that they are shaping the anticipation of the experience when you consume. So that when you actually do drink Coke or Liquid Death or whatever you're drinking that's been advertised a bajillion times, the experience itself is different.